letting everybody filter in here. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, depending on where you're at in the country. Tammi, you're from the Twin Cities, so it's still morning where you're at. Welcome. We're going to rename this Coffee with Tammi. Good morning. Glad everybody can make it. Glad everybody can make it. Tammi, I want to introduce you. Tammi is, and I don't know the title that you go by in your office there, but I'll call you the Director of Growth, Sales Director, whatever you want to call it, for the Grant Johnson Group at EXP in the Twin Cities. And so your role really is one of recruiting, agent development, and growth, but you've been in this role for a while. Like you've been in the industry, obviously, like me, for a long time. We're not showing our age. We're looking remarkably well for 50, right? or 70. But tell us exactly, like, what were you doing prior to the Grant Johnson Group at Edina Realty?
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Yes, Minnesota. We still have some snowbanks here for those of you that are in warm climates. Mike, I was just a couple hours north moving a middle daughter down, and I'm like, there is still large snowbanks. Great. So I've been doing this for about 23 years in the real estate business. And so with that, I started as an agent, as probably we all did, and got into that. And I am just a coach at heart. So I coach fast pitch softball. I've done some other coaching, things in my life. And very early on got into management, mentorship, pick a name that you want to call it, in my second year in real estate. There's a couple people on this call also that have been along that ride with me for a very long time. So fast forward, ran anywhere from 100 to 250 agents or more at all times. And so that was kind of my gig, keeping all the balls in the air, doing that. And in that aspect, had a couple staff members and learned some very good fail forwards on how not to do things and maybe how to improve on them. And still to this day, still doing some improving every single day. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you were with another, let's call them a Berkshire Hathaway company, Edina, but you were a broker manager. You were doing recruiting. You were also managing offices. You said like 150 agents. And I'm assuming you've recruited hundreds and hundreds of agents in your career. And then, fast forward a year or so. How many years ago? Is it 2 years ago you came to EXP?
Not yet.
No,
but not yet. I have the countdown going, but about a year and a half.
Okay, so you're a year and a half. That's right. So a year and a half, because your non-compete still sitting out there. Okay, so you're a year and a half ago, you came to EXP, you joined the Grant Johnson Group, and you said, hey, look, I can help you guys grow your team. And so that's kind of what you're helping them with right now is recruiting and agent development, and obviously retention's a part of that as well. And that's what I want to make the topic of today, because I think that's what all the team leaders in our group know and we preach, is the revenue growth comes directly from marketing as well as recruiting of agents and agent development. And that's kind of your wheelhouse. So that's what I want to spend some time on today. Maybe take us through, what do you do in a week, in a normal day? Like what is your recruiting routine look like?
So basically I got rid of the word recruiting a long time ago, and I just call it connections, or you can call it attraction, pick a word. I think in our society, and if you use the word recruiting, great, that's cool. But I think nobody wants to be recruited. I think everybody wants to gravitate towards something that they feel is going to change their life in some, sustainable way, right? And so the average day is getting up, and I already have in place a month to 90 days out in my calendar. I have a coffee date, I have a lunch date, and I have a happy hour date every single week. And so I just have to fill in those names. Those names are, it kind of goes hand in hand if you're doing attraction and doing, business, because I do still sell, or I rainmake because my husband is licensed. With partnering with the Grant Johnson Group, I'm actually not a full partner in it yet, but will be next year. And that is just due to a non-solicitation from a previous business model. It is identifying who that we want to be a part of our group. And we put a lot of effort into that. I love new agents. Most people would say, I don't want to deal with a new agent and get them learned up and get them developed and put all that work in. We have a couple people here that work on development, so that's a good thing. It's just not me. One of the great fail forwards that I've had is over all these years, and let me know if this resonates with anybody. I'm the one, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You know, on our last call last week, Chris Gurney and I were having that conversation. It's a really backwards thing to think about. First and foremost, your time. Your time. You are a professional. You may have a partner in your life. You may have offspring in your life. You may have pets, whatever it may be. You have to think about your time first, and that sounds really backwards. So when we sit down and do our schedule, I don't have enough me time in there yet, but I'm working on it. But I have 3 children. So all of their information goes into my calendar first before anything real estate. And then I go from there. And do I shuffle that around once in a while? Yes, absolutely. But the typical day is taking a look at the week. I look at it by the week and know, who do I have to touch base with? Who's already in my funnel that I'm doing something with, and who can they introduce me to? No different than we're asking for a referral from a past client. Who can that person, put me in front of for something else? And then it goes into, you know what, we all have these little things, right? Picking us up, and saying, all right, what do I need to do? What's coming in through some of our ads, through some of our avenues that we use for attraction, and then plugging in the systems. And if you don't have a system, you have to have a system to leverage your time first and foremost. To kind of go through it. I mean, the average day is, I try to connect with 6 people on the attraction point a day. Why 6? Because it was my number growing up playing sports, and it's my favorite number. So, and I mean, when I say a connection, I mean, like, I am reaching out to them. I'm not sending them a drip campaign. I'm not doing that. I'm reaching out to them in some way, shape, or form. And if a bunch of you know me, usually it's a video text.
Yeah, that was really cool. I remember you sent me a couple of your example video texts, and you were showing me, like, this is what I send to people who are coming through in WiseHire, or this is when I'm reaching out to someone, because you're putting a face with the name. And
it's human psychology.
Yeah, it's a human component to it. I love that. So powerful. And we've been talking to agents about doing this with their leads as well, because it's such a powerful conversion tool.
Every one of them here, our conversion has went up, I feel, because of that. And I had a coach once tell me, like, you do it on Snapchat, whatever, you can find any filter you want right now with AI. And I had a coach tell me, like, Tammi, that's what your face looks like. They're going to see you. At some point you're going to be face to face with them. So just send the text. Because I had every excuse you could think of. I am a 53-year-old woman, and I had every excuse you can think of not to send a video text. So now I just do it. I mean, when somebody rolls in, I pick up this phone and I'm just like, and it's off to them. And I don't even, it's one take and done, because that's who I am. And that's the authenticity that we want to draw to our team as well, within reason.
Within reason. Okay, so you're sending them a video text if they came in through one of your ads or WiseHire or something like that. They're interested in a career in real estate, or maybe they're looking at an opportunity you guys have. Then what's the follow-up? They reply back to you, and then you're trying to schedule a call, or you just call them, you do a little phone.
So the follow-up is every one of them through all the different avenues of attraction are getting a video text. And then what happens is, when we connect via phone, I will always do a phone consultation first, because I do, again, you're going to hear this is like a broken record. I do not want to waste precious time on something that is not going to go anywhere. And I think each of us as team leaders can get a very good gist over a phone conversation, which can be anywhere from 15, I usually block out 30 minutes for it. It can go longer. Through that phone conversation, if you know what, they pass the litmus test, you know what, then I send them the information. We have a couple PDFs, we send a Brent Go video, you know, a couple other things, and we send that information. I always tell them it's a Mac Daddy packed email. That is your homework. Once you get through that homework, so I am like putting the ball in their court. Once you get through that homework, if you have questions or interest or, you know, whatever, then what we're going to do is we are going to set up a face-to-face meeting. And so those can take a lot of time. So what we do here also is we do 2 times a month on a weeknight and a Saturday morning. Again, selfishly on my schedule. We do what we just call a attraction, you know, like, you know, real estate 101. And so we can meet in person, or I just shove them into with a Zoom meeting, or they can come into our training facility here. And we do that. So that way they can come in and then we can go one-on-one with, you know, here's what it is. And you guys, I don't give a commercial at all. I used to be in a market center that literally out my door to the left, let's just say a par 3, there was a CB, long par, dogleg par 5, Remax, and then the clubhouse was about KW right there. And so the recruiting, I mean, basically it was just Bermuda Triangle. And so
you
I
all just
learned
traded
early on.
all the time.
Yeah. I learned very early on. I was just authentic me, which is not everybody's cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine. But instead of giving the commercial, like, you're going to come here and make $1 million and work 20 hours and blah, 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 on a new boat. I'm like, dude, you're going to come here and you're going to work your ass off. We're going to partner. I'm going to be your partner. And earlier in my career, and probably, you know, every once in a while, I still see potential in people that they don't see their self. And so I end up giving a lot more than they do. And that's one of my works in progress. But I just give them the truth and tell them that you should have 6 to 8 months in savings. You know, if you're coming in as a new agent, you should be able to have X amount of hours. I tell them in the office, I mean, we have a physical space. And so I tell them that I need to see them 4 to 6 hours a week. And that includes the coaching component as well. And so I hate to use the word mandatory because I always use the analogy, you can only hold their head under the water so often until it's illegal. But I call it mandatory that they, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's, you know, 5 hours there and then a coaching call, you know, and then some accountability. So if they can't give 6 hours a week, and sometimes, you know what, people call with excuses or something happened, that's fine. At least they're being accountable to tell you why they're not there. I just got an accountability sheet from one of our new agents that joined us, and he had his wife sign it as well. And basically, if he doesn't show up, it literally says like he's bringing me in $50 checks and I get to hold on to them. I didn't make up that rule. He did. I'm like, cool. You know, so the accountability is going to a different level. I think Grant's still on here. He's in the other room, but our accountability is going to a different level here because we want people that want the same things that we want for them, if that makes sense.
Well, you want hungry people you can help.
Yeah. And coachable.
Yeah.
Coachable people. I mean, we have some new seasoned agents, one's 5 years, one's 8 years, one's another one. And they came in and they had to be humble, and everybody has an ego. Come on. But you know what? Last time I checked, there's no room for ego on your deposit slip on your checkbook. Yeah. So they had to be that and say, we need to start over and we need to do this. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you just in follow-up, so you're sending out the video text, you're having a quick phone conversation, and then you mentioned the word litmus test, and I like that word too, because that's what I call it, but you're having a little litmus test with people on the phone. Now, what are those things that if they don't cross this litmus test, we're not meeting in person, we're not spending more time together, like what are you looking for on that call? Are there things that have hard edges, or is it just more of a gut feeling?
Sometimes it's just intuition, but my first phone call usually has nothing to do about real estate. Hey, Mike, I see that you inquired on one of these ads here, and I'm just following up with you to see, what do you got going? What are you doing right now? Tell me about your why. Tell me about your hobbies. Oh, you have kids? Tell me about them. I mean, my first probably 15 questions have nothing to do with real estate.
Building
I want to know who they are as a person. I want to
Mhm.
know where they're coming from, what they're praying for, what they're trying to get out of, taking the time to register on a website or with something else. And so that first 15 minutes is all about them. I am asking them questions about their life, kind of their core values without, using the terminology core values. What makes you get out of bed in the morning? Because sometimes when I ask people their why, they're like, I don't know. And that's cool. And I just always ask them, what'd you get out of bed this morning for? Tell me what you like to do. What are your hobbies? Tell me some great trips that you've been on. And then we get into why real estate then? What are you thinking about real estate? And here is the answer. And I'm sure everybody can brace themselves for this. I love houses and people. Yeah, give the people a couple months and the houses will still be there, hopefully. But, number one answer by far. I love houses. And then I crush their dreams and tell them, have you watched HGTV? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, it's nothing like that. So let me just crush that dream for you and let's move on. And you guys, I know I may sound very direct, but my time is like super, super important, as is every single one of yours. We don't get it back. So.
Yeah. One of my litmus tests has always been that you want to be full-time. Like this is going to be a career for you. This isn't a part-time job. This isn't a hobby, right? This is going to be a full-time thing. And then you mentioned having reserves. Like I need to know that has your full attention. So do you have the reserves or the spousal support or the nest egg or something?
Yeah. And it's something in our marketplace, which I'm sure it's in a lot of other marketplace where they're getting a bill of sale that is a commercial. And so I get out of them too, like, tell me who else you've been, am I the first person you've spoken with, or have you spoken with somebody else? Most of the time in this market, I know who everybody else is, and I know exactly what they say. And, it is what it is. And so then I can get through that obstacle very quickly. But you need to know what they want out of this. I will tell you, and I'm sure on this call, I can't see everybody, but, the millennial generation and even the generation Z, I think, they do things differently. And I am learning so much. We attracted here on the team, we have from 18 to 25. I call it, we have this little herd of them. And some days I'm like, oh my God, oh my gosh. But other days I'm like, that is such a cool idea. And there's a few of them that they just go. And so it's changing a little bit where we want them to be full-time, but maybe Mike and our definition of full-time is different than theirs. I think the pandemic changed a lot of work from home and the way people use their time, where maybe it's not all day. Maybe some of their prospecting, their content creation is being done in the middle of the night and then put out and, differently. So I'm learning a lot from our 18 to our 26-year-olds here, where I'm like, all right, let's do it. Why not? And so full time, you do talk to them about that because it's very hard to do it part-time if you're working at 8 to 5, but we have somebody on the team, and I don't know how this is done. He is a full-time engineer. When I first met him, and you know who it is, Mike, I didn't understand why we could only meet from noon to 1. I was like, why are we meeting from noon to 1 all the time? Well, here to come to find out, that was his lunch break. This gentleman sells 135 houses a year after 5. For sure. And I don't know if he's on here, but if he is, you're amazing. But Grant and I have learned a lot from his team as well. very interesting.
Yeah, well,
So-
there's certainly some cultural differences there too. So that's,
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, again, after 5 and, on the weekends.
yeah, I've seen a lot of, I think too many, as you have probably examples of people who are doing this part-time and never get over that hump because you can never get any money or momentum to be able to make the move. And unless you have enough transactions and enough money, you'll never develop a skill set.
Correct.
Right. And so it's like,
Yeah.
it's that gap between I'd never get enough money to quit. And I'm not good enough, with my skill set because I haven't done enough deals, and it's a catch-22. And so it's like, it's a super, super, super rare person that could ever make the jump from employed full-time, part-time real estate to full-time real estate. And so that's why I've always just insisted, if you're going to be on my team and I'm giving you leads, you're full-time, period.
Correct.
No ifs, ands, or
Correct. I call it a seesaw. I mean, and I tell them, you are going to know if you are transitioning from a full-time job, that you're going to be doing this. And when your real estate starts doing this, then you're going to know it's time to jump off the edge of the cliff there and get going. But at some point you're going to have to do that. And we make very specific plans for anybody that is coming in from that realm. We have a lot of teachers here in Minnesota that transition into real estate. So those teacher benefits are unbelievable. And so for them to, not teach a class in the summer or something like that. So you kind of take those different job opportunities and demographics and do that. We want them all to be full-time, and we want them to be full-time, especially if we are doing the partnering and investing with the lead generation.
Exactly.
Grant and I have differed on that, but come to a great thing. Grant, I know you're very generous. You're very generous. Look at, he pops on when I start saying that, huh? Very generous. But I'm more the person that is like, the generosity is a privilege. And you're on this team for a reason. And we want to help you and we want to partner with you, but you have to put in the work as well. So I get to be the heavy. How's that, Grant?
One of the things that, and I think you'll agree with this, that I've seen with teams is your culture shifts as you bring new energy in. So that new energy, that new enthusiasm, I think you guys just went through that here recently in the first quarter, where you're bringing all this new blood and they're excited. They don't know any different. They're doing what they're told. They're getting results. And the new people or the old people are looking around going, hey, what's going on here?
That was called Tuesday.
That was called Tuesday.
Tuesday, this place was rocking. And some of us were like, what the heck? Like, get us out of here. And you're exactly right. They're so excited and they have just new energy, which should invoke the seasoned agents, which I say that already have the skill sets in place. It should invoke some, well, if they can do it, I can do it, right?
Exactly. But we have to keep the old veterans on task and not getting complacent, right? And we don't want that energy in the pond to get stagnant, to use that term. I don't want the water.
Well, and what we're doing there, Mike, not to make it stagnant, is we're empowering our seasoned agents. They are mentors and pod leaders. So once we get through, and it is primarily myself doing it, once we get through getting somebody to join the group, do those type of things, they come in and they have a mentor and they have a pod leader as well. That's what we call them. So the mentor comes in, and if they're new, even if they're not, like the couple gentlemen that just joined us, they're going to have a mentor for a couple ways just so they can, experience our expectations. And they come in, and for 3 to 5 transactions, they have that mentor. They're going to give a little bit of spiff on a closing, to a mentor. And they will go on that process. After they get through that mentorship program, basically what they're going to do then is they're going to be in one of our pods. We have our seasoned agents that we've kind of, put out. We have 4 pods right now. We're going to need a 5th. And those agents, instead of always calling all of us or phoning through all of us or texting all of us, that pod leader is like their go-to. That pod leader takes them out with listing appointments, kind of does a little bit more mentoring as well, showings, those type of things. But the person that is in that pod always kind of goes to that person first. And then if they can't reach that person, then they move to somebody else. And that, again, if you guys haven't gotten my lining foundation is time. Because otherwise, somebody will call through all of us. Like if they call through me, and then they call through Grant, and then they call through Amber and Chris, and so on and so on. Then all of us are trying to get back to them, not knowing that all of us have been called. So we've set up that form of accountability. So again, underlying time saving, there you go. And we have a in-house like private, Facebook group that like this weekend, Amber's out of town. She's traveling for Mother's Day. And we put on there like who's in town, who's out of town. So our whole team knows where all of us are, and we all have access to each other's calendars as well.
So let's talk about the other side of recruiting, which is retention. I've always thought that the best retention is a successful agent, getting people a deal, keeping them getting deals, keeping them engaged. And I know that you believe heavily in coaching and making sure that you're adding the value to the relationship so that you can help them be successful. Obviously they have to want it, but what are some of the key parts of retention for you?
I think the key part of retention for us is having very clear expectations. I think a lot of teams just gather people onto their team. They do 4 or 5 deals. They're doing a great job. We kind of forget about them because they're doing a great job and we're busy. And it is going back. Like I just sent 3 text messages last night that I hadn't seen a couple people this week yet. And I'm like, are you upright, taking nourishment? Are you on a great vacation I should vicariously be living through? And bam, all 3 of them. And I said, you have a coaching, we need to get together. It's mid-year, so we go over business plans again. So the retention piece is having very clear expectations of the expectation of the team. And I say there's the EXP umbrella and there's the team umbrella. And that is basically what, they are functioning under. And so as we are spending our time and doing things, and we're pretty transparent and investing into lead generation and all of these different things and marketing and stuff like that, they need to know that they're a partner in that. And most people, I will tell them, like, you can come talk to me about anything. I've heard it all in 23 years. And before that, I was in dentistry. So I have heard it all. I have seen a lot. I'll take a lot to my grave for a lot of people. But come talk, come have a conversation. I'm one of those people that, you can walk around the office and crab about it, but nobody in the office is going to be able to fix it unless you go face to face with the person that the problem's with. And so even along those expectations, we'll kind of do some one-on-ones. And Grant has his people that kind of migrate to him. Amber has hers. I have mine. Chris has his. So you have this human migration of people that kind of go, oh, Tammi, she's too tough. Grant, he's nice. Let's go talk to him, So
Daddy will say,
is this when I hop on now? Because there's people laughing out here saying Grant's nice. So
I believe it.
Yeah. I think the whole retention piece though is people always want to feel looked upon. They want connection. They don't want you to be calling them and saying, hey, Mike, I see that you only pended 2 deals. Meanwhile, your daughter's been sick for 3, whatever, so they want that human connectivity. And so I am more apt to stay in communication with them about what's going on in their life, because over all these years, specific life events highly impact the production of sales. Period.
100%. Yep.
And so you got to stay awake and know what's going on. And it comes back to the questions. You have to ask the questions that are relevant to that person. What's going on in their life that maybe you should know about, or maybe you don't want to know about, but you should know about because it's highly affecting what's happening to have transactions flowing through and funding their life.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned that when in the interview process, you're asking a lot of open-ended questions because you want to get them talking. I do that also, but I want to hear how they think. Like I'm listening for their word selection. I'm listening to who they're blaming in their words. whether it's an empowering language or a disempowering language. I'm listening for certain cues, but it's nice to hear like what's going on in their world, because that lets you a little bit of insight into their psychology. Like, how do they
Yes.
think?
How do they think? I mean, you have an agent come on and they just start throwing their previous brokerage or business model that they're in under the bus. And I always look at them and, some people know the bus, so I kind of cock my head and I'm like, really? And I'm like, well, you've been there for 8 years, so something good's going on there. I mean, even my previous brokerage, they did good things for me and my family. And it is what it is. I'm not going to throw them under the bus. It wasn't for me anymore. And so you listen to the way that their thinking goes, the way you can tell very quickly. And just because I'm into psychology a lot as well, you can tell very quickly if they would be in a partnership mode or it would be a give and take. And I tell them many times, this is not a give and take culture. This is actually a partnership. And if you don't do your part, I'm going to call you out on it. And I do, and then they're like, oh,
Part of getting mutual agreement. And I think that's important in any relationship, but especially if you're recruiting people to the team where you're investing time, money, into someone, resources. There has to be a mutual understanding. Like, here's what you're getting from me. Now, what are you committing to? And let's make sure we have an understanding.
And I think that's something that we all just need to do better authentically and very transparently, because like I said, the marketplace I was in, they're just going to do a loop-de-loop, a 2-mile loop-de-loop and hit 4 business models, right? So what is my value proposition? What are we doing here that is going to make the difference in your life? And many, I mean, I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of agents over the years. And it was always, they came back and they never said, you didn't tell me about that, Tammi. And I'm like, oh, yes, I did, and we put it in writing, and so I've been called a couple different analogies around the block here and in the marketplace, but I like to call it authentic. Some people call it bitchy, but I like to call it authentic. And so that you're coming into running a business. You're coming into 100% commission business model. You are coming into not a W-2 mindset. Yeah. If you are sitting in the office for 8 hours, I am going to kick you out because you need to be in front of a human. You're not punching in and punching out here. So again, everything coming back to those expectations of what they're going to be doing. I always use the analogy of Starbucks. Mike, if you and I were going to open a Starbucks tomorrow, who would be the barista? Who's going to make all those drinks? Who's going to make the TikTok, secret menu drinks? What if we run out of milk? What if we run out of coffee beans? What would happen? And while we're opening this Starbucks, how many hours do you think we are going to put in to get this Starbucks up and off the ground? Usually that analogy makes people think, and they're like, well, we're going to work a lot of hours. I'm like, yes, we are. And it's the same thing you're going to do here.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
Yeah. And so to make them change their mindset, many people are coming from W-2. So we got to make them change their mindset on what they're actually doing. We're not punching in at 8 and get a break and then get a lunch and then get a break. And then you go home and you get to do whatever you want after 4:30. We are on. We have different hours. And so we got to change their mindset to a business-like mindset and a growth mindset, which is probably one of my largest hurdles with people. It takes a while for them to do that. And then one day you can see the light comes on or they're out of the business.
Well, and if we all on this call, we all know as team leaders, like we can only help them get results if they take actions. They can only get results if they're taking actions consistently over time, which means I have to influence their behavior and their habits. I can only influence their habits and their behavior if I'm in a position of rapport and influence with them. And I can only be in a position of rapport and influence with them if I have a good relationship with them and have an understanding of them, right? And so it's like, it all starts back with the relationship, getting to know your people, building those relationships. I love how you said you put 3 meetings a week on your spaces on your calendar, a coffee, a lunch, and a happy hour. And you're always, every single week for the whole year, you're just trying to fill those up every week. I love that. So who are some of the people that you're trying to fill that up with? Are they recruits? Are they existing team members that you need to just solidify your relationships with? Are these, like, give me a sense of that.
It's kind of a menu of everybody. Last week it was a lender that, we're working with. It is, people that I want to build a relationship with. It's community people. So it's a little bit of everything. It always isn't, just agents or other team leaders. And, it's kind of become one of those things where right now I'm actually booked into August. And so I have those, done up where they're into August. So we try to do a lot of community stuff, but if I'm meeting with a lender, it's like, well, what other agents do you know? I'm always planting the seed of how else can we expand into whoever I'm meeting with? How can we expand into their sphere, the people that they know, the people that they may want to introduce us to? So it's always planting and getting there. So usually the people on our team, I'm not using that time slot for them.
Gotcha.
Those are Thursdays. Those are like, sign up, you know what, we're doing this, we're doing that, or on a weekend or something like that.
What are you doing for team events or team culture? Like, just to solidify that fun atmosphere, they need to have a sense of belonging, positive.
It always stems around food.
Of course,
right?
feed them.
Yeah. So happy hours, the team has, we have, season ticket to our minor league here. So doing some of that, we have done some community, volunteering. And then just in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it gets to be loud. Nobody's getting anything done till afternoon because we have a new agent check-in and then we have team development on those days. And so, doing those things and just having more people come in. And I think, what we've heard, Grant and I have heard, is having a plethora of young agents come in. Yeah, I'm saying that out loud, young, has really heightened the energy. And I mean, I've had to step back and say, I'm learning a lot from them, but in turn, we have the skill sets in which they need. They just have really different ways of doing things in which I'm open to. Because some of it has been very efficient.
Yeah. I heard someone say last year, I heard it for the first time, but it makes sense. And they said, you need to let all of your existing agents have them see you recruiting their replacements every day.
Yeah. When we come in, I'll use the agents of saying, hey, come on in and tell me your story. Here's Taylor here, here's Damon, or, here's Rosie. Come on and tell me your story, type of thing. Tell them why you're here. And usually I'm grabbing them walking by a conference room and I'm grabbing them. It's not like staged. They're like, and then I just pray that they say something okay. But if I didn't have that trust in who we have on the team, I probably wouldn't ask that question to somebody walking by a conference room with somebody that I just met, right? So that circles back to the culture. What are we creating here that is helping and providing value in people, both their transactional life? We have people on the team that want to go and build a team. Great, let us help you. Mike, you've been involved in a few of those. Yep. I think it's just kind of a round robin of what is needed at that time in somebody's life, and what you can do to provide, what they need. Yeah. Again, within reason.
Guys, while we're talking here, if you have some questions that you want us to hit on or topics that you want us to come back to, just put it in the chat and we'll make sure and do that as we get wrapped up. So you mentioned the video text that you send to people. You mentioned you moved that to a phone conversation where we have, a get to know you. I want to hear how they think. You're asking them questions, getting to know about their life. Why are they thinking about real estate? And then I'm assuming you set that up then for an in-person interview, if it makes sense. And if they answer the questions the right way, you're trying to get in front of them.
Correct.
what happens then? Do you invite them to a weekly sales meeting that you guys have so they can be a part of your team meeting and your culture? To see
Correct.
if that's something they
Yep,
wanna-
we just immerse them right into the culture
Okay,
and
so
hope that everybody
that-
behaves.
what is, so is that mean just inviting them into the office to see what you're all about and come to a sales
Correct.
meeting?
Yep, we invite them into the office, see what they're all about, send them a few different things. They probably had enough of me by then. Where they get to come in, and usually what I'll do is I'll pick one or two agents. Especially if they're in the younger demographic, I'll say, hey, Rosie and Caroline, would you mind reaching out to this person? I just met with them. Here's a little bit about them. And then the agents they help, they actually reach out.
Oh,
So
that's-
I'm having them reach out, especially, you know, if it's a younger demographic. I mean, I know my place, some of those things, I mean, some of the words, I don't know, those meant different things in my day. You know, and so I have them reach out and then have them join us. Yeah, come on in, you know, let's do this. Or, you know, the perfect thing is, hey, we have a monthly happy hour, meet us here. You get the full feel right there for it. And most of the time, people on the team will just walk right up to them and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, you know, who are you? I mean, we just had 2 new people that joined us at our meeting. And our transaction coordinator, I forgot in the beginning of the meeting, we were doing wins and gratitudes, and then I just rolled right into the meeting. And she's like, I don't know those 3 people. And I'm like, oh, okay, whoops, you know, and so, you know, doing those things and just getting them involved as soon as possible. I tell them we are a pretty laid back team. We like to have fun, but we also like to serve, fund our lives, and help each other. And I always tell them also, you will be helping somebody else on the team, even if they're brand new. You'll be helping somebody else on the team. One of the gals that's coming on, I'm like, you'll be helping them with all their technological stuff. There you go. Because you're like 8, you're 19, and I don't even know what those words mean coming out of your mouth.
So if they have an iPhone problem, they're coming to you.
Yeah, we got 2 people on the team with Androids. I'm like, you guys are dead to us.
That's funny. So we had a question about your homework. You mentioned like when you're on the phone with them and you said, hey, as some homework, here's what I want you to do. And this is prior to you meeting with them in person for their interview. What does that consist of? Like, what is your homework?
So we have a couple PDFs that we send out. One is one in which we use for the Grant Johnson Group, and I think we're fine with sharing that, Grant. And it is just about the Grant Johnson Group. It goes through our core values, what we're about, lead generation, team development, coaching, all of those type of things. And then we send out the EXP one as well. So the US, you know, explained. And
Yep.
then in that email, there's also the Brent Gove video of him just being Brent, you know, very energetic, and explaining a little bit more about the additional income streams, because I don't hit on that a whole lot unless they're seasoned.
Right.
And so they go through that. And so each of those PDFs and those slide decks are, you know, 15, 20, you know, a piece. And so that is, I use the term in my world, homework a lot, you know, assignments, homework, where you have to do this homework, you got to get it back to me. And so that gives them, again, on the psychology aspect, we're already partnering because you're doing homework for me. And if you don't do the homework, I'm probably not going to talk to you. Right. So I'm already seeing, are they willing to partner in a task to get to the next step?
That's
right.
powerful. I like that because you're not chasing them. You're
No, I don't have time to chase. I have 3 kids, a dog, and a husband.
Yeah, which is interesting because, you know, in this business, we are chasing just a tiny bit in the very beginning, just to initiate the conversation. But then like, I need someone coming my direction, because if they're not coming my direction, then they don't want what I have. Right. But you have
Correct.
to sort of start the conversation to see if there's interest, to see if they're
Correct.
coming back, you know, your direction. But I love how you're asking them to do something for you.
Yeah. And I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's a test.
Yeah.
If they're willing to do that homework, they're more apt to be willing to pick up the phone and call somebody or follow up with a lead.
You would
Right? Yeah, you would think.
think.
You would think.
That's great. So what is the mix of people you have in your office? I mean, like what percentage would you say come in as already licensed, having done transactions versus brand spanking new to the business? Like, is this a 50-50? Is it 75-25, 25-75?
Right now, we have a whole bunch of brand new people. that are, don't have any bad habits.
That's lovely.
And we get to mold them and go from there. But we do have our season agents. We probably have, let's just say 10 to 12 seasoned agents on the immediate team. And then we have our, our affiliate, people that are, in our downline and stuff like that as well, that are mostly
How many
seasoned.
how many total do you have on the Grant Johnson group that are on the leads team? Not like let's say, the network or the.
I think Grant's on here, maybe like, I think on our leads team, probably 24 or less right
We
now.
have about 24 on Zillow Flex.
Okay, so we got about,
That's
say, 24 total on the leads team that are getting leads from the team in some way or fashion. And you're saying about half of those are veterans, like they've done deals, they came to you with a license and some transaction history already.
Correct. We have probably about 4 or 5 more that are coming on, and they'll be on, and that's just Zillow Flex. But Grant, we won't have this fight on screen, but Grant's visionary on lead generation. And we have all kinds of lead sources in which we are going back and we're having accountability with them as well. So nothing moving forward will slip through the cracks. How's that, Grant?
We'll talk after. No, just kidding.
That's funny. I got another question. It says, where are you generating agent leads from? He mentioned was the homework to review the PDFs and get back to you. We already went over that. But so what are all some of the lead sources that they're getting? Zillow Flex, obviously. What are some of the other ones?
Is this going to our agents for transactions, or where we're getting them
Yes.
for attraction?
No, for agents for not attracting agents. If leads and good agents.
Grant, go ahead and take that one.
So we got Flex, Op City, Quali, Rise Plus,
Prime Street,
Prime Street, which has been really good.
Ojo.
I can keep going if you need me to, Mike. I mean,
There is a
it's-
whole page.
Yeah, but you also do some lead gen through your website. You have a
Yep, we
got
use
your-
Brian Short for PPC,
Google PPC on your website.
which we concentrate mainly on Bing now because we're getting a higher quality lead off of Bing.
Yes. And there's less competition there. That's interesting. Glad you said-
Correct. So, and we're doing some radio right now. And I checked this morning, we've been on radio for a month, just over, and we've gotten 4 CMA requests. So I didn't think that was too bad.
Yeah, not bad. Good job.
So,
Had another question about agent attraction sources. So obviously WiseHire is a big one because you have a lot of nets in the water catching people. And these are people typically looking for a job that we're catching, but what other sources do you have? I know you have a list, so you have the broker metrics or whatever your source is. Are you just calling them, or do you have people calling them, or is it an email campaign?
Right now, it's very organic, because as Mike and I mentioned, I am under a non-solicit till the end of the year. And so I always say, if I can do this organically, anybody can. It's a lot of time on me right now doing reach outs to seasoned agents. Otherwise it is WiseHire, and our marketing gal here, she does a lot on social media. And so I can do nothing. I can do no marketing. And this isn't to sound weird. And Eric and Pam, you can probably laugh, but next year, I get to use what I've done for the last 23 years in my reputation to attract. And I feel that that is going to be very helpful for the team.
You think?
How is that? Was that legally okay? Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. In your previous role, what did you do to attract agents?
Oh, Mike, you're good. You see how I set you up for that? Because this is being recorded. In my previous role, you guys, it was a lot of, I do a lot of community service. I am around the community, so get to know a lot of people. And I would actually utilize the partnerships with agents like I do now. Like, who do you know? Who do you know that wants to work with us? Who do you know that wants to be in the trenches with us? Who do you know that wants to, make a good living? And it was just always those type of things. Plus, of course, there was, corporate campaigns, stuff like that. It always comes back down. I don't care what email you send out, what, drip campaign you have going, what billboard you have out there. It comes down to the relationship. And is there a connection? Is there a fit with the first person you're talking to on that team? I've had many people come and sit in my chair and they're like, this person said that, this person said this, da, 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 da. And so it has to come down to a connection. The word recruiting I stopped using because some of my counterparts that I, for lack of a better term, compete against in the marketplace, have a very unique way of telling a story. The story isn't about me. The story isn't about what I'm going to do for you. The story is about us. The story is about we. The story is about all of the team. And so changing some of your words, your verbiage, to complement who's sitting in the chair across from you is the biggest part. So again, it comes down to the relationship. A lot of the same things in which I did, I just can't, I haven't been able to market at all.
Yeah. So if you were taking some of what you used to do and bringing it forward, what that might look like is not just relationships with lender and title partners and saying, hey, who do you know that I should pick up the phone and talk to? And then you do.
Yeah.
Or maybe even your own agents in your company to say, hey, team member, who are some agents that you met in CE class? Who are some new agents that were in school with you? Who are some agents who you know, or, relatives who have a license? And then you pick up the phone and call them on behalf of them. Yeah.
Correct. We've done that. We've had people that met people at the board at CE and whatever, and they are now on our team. So I do that to our team members. Like, who do you know? Who have you done? Who's on the other side of a transaction that would be a fit for us? Who do you know these guys all go to the gym? I don't, but they do. Who do you know at the gym? And it was super funny. One of our new agents that we got, I was going to a gym and she goes there and I said, just put on a Grant Johnson t-shirt. And she's like, I talked to somebody. I'm having coffee with them. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, there you go. That's because I'm not sitting there on the treadmill. You have at it.
That's awesome.
So any of those things, I think it always comes down to the relationship and trying to forge forward into who's going to be a fit.
I know that some team leaders will have either themselves or the person sitting in your seat, the director of growth, either teach in a local board office, like classes, or they'll teach in a local real estate school, or they'll volunteer to go speak at different events, and to answer questions to people who are getting their license. One I even know that started their own real estate school in their team just so that they could, help people get their license in the beginning. So I don't know, have you done any of that in the past? Have you had success?
In the past life? Yeah. In the past, yes. 2024. Yes. Right now, no.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thanks everybody for jumping on here and participating, asking questions. Tammi, thank you for coming. Is there anything else that maybe everybody should know about recruiting to their team that we haven't talked about?
I think just like we teach the people on our team to be consistent and have a discipline, if you just start doing it every day, and if it's as little as putting one appointment in your calendar a week to get in front of another human being, that is the beginning of a great habit for your team. And then you get up to 3 and so on and so on. And it's just creating the habit to get to where you want to be. And it's the same exact thing that we teach our teams, but we're not doing it ourselves. So I'm always like, if I would always maybe think about what I'm preaching and practice it, there you go. And if anybody has any questions, you can always reach out to me, text me, email me, and I'll answer whatever I can for you.
Yeah. And just like you said, with your own personal activities, you're doing 6 outreaches a day yourself. So it's those daily habits of yourself being intentional to do that, because they're not coming to you, knocking on your door and saying, can I meet with you necessarily? You're having
absolutely
to
not
do that follow-up.
I mean, we have to create habits. And I think all of us have talked to us about that. We have to create habits to get the results in which we need. if I go to the gym tonight, I'm not gonna walk out feeling 20 pounds less. Unfortunately, otherwise I'd go.
Tammy, thank you. I appreciate it. So I hope everybody enjoyed coffee with Tammy this morning. So cheers.
Chai.
Hi with Tammy this morning. Thank you.
All right, guys.
All right.
Have a great day.
Good to see everybody.
Bye.